Okay, hello everyone. Okay, so this is the second part of reviewing the core syllabus. So this is going to focus on the grading policy. All right, so this is how I will be determining your grade for the semester. So your final grade will be determined by your performance on six assignments. One, again, as I mentioned earlier, the attendance, the peer editing a peer's essay, writing a reflection paper on a peer's editing essay, weekly Canvas modules, and a 7 to 10 page research proposal, and presenting your research proposal. All right. So attendance and participation is worth 350 points, and as I mentioned earlier, or in the prior video that I made for you, is every time you log on to Canvas, that's how I'm going to keep roll. All right, and participation. So that's 350 points. The editing a peer's essay is going to be worth 600 points. Sorry, 600 points, and then the second part of writing a peer review essay, basically what your assessment and experience reading your peer's essay is worth 400 points, and then weekly Canvas modules about for 15 weeks, and each one is about worth 50 points for 750 points, and then if I sorry, I'll fix this as well. The 7 to 10 page paper, which is worth 450, and the presentation for 450 for a grand total of 3,000 total possible points. Okay. Yeah. Again, I'll fix these typos, which I thought I caught earlier. All right. So then this is the grade breakdown. So this is the raw score. So this is the total, all right, and then this is the percentage and the raw score and the breakdown. All right, so 3,000 would be one, so that would be an A, and the lowest or the floor for an A is 0.95 or 2,960 points. An A minus, it would be 2,820 to 2,700 for an A minus, and so on and so forth. All right, now. Um, in terms of grading, I always try to give the student the benefit of the doubt because, one, I do recognize and realize, and this might be a small consolation, that I do recognize how complex your life is as a student. Because one of the, I guess, my pet peeves that I have, and especially for first generation university students and their families, and this usually comes out when I get invited by a student to their graduation, and then when I meet their family, right? So then I usually get like a comment from the family. So it's like, oh, now that they're done with their education, they can now enter the real world. And I'm like, no, wait, slow your roll. Well, I don't necessarily say slow your roll, but I'm more like, I think we need to sort of revisit this and think about this really much more critically. And then I'll explain is that your son or daughter um, attending the university and pursuing their education are in the real world. But the reality is so much more complex that you will ever understand. But I'm trying not to make them feel bad if the family members didn't pursue their own education. And then I started to point out to the family members, but think about it. Your son or daughter has to get up every morning to go to school, go to work, and then fulfill family obligations, friend obligations, work obligations, course obligations, and it takes a lot of time and energy. So students are way and beyond the idea of living in reality, because the reality is that your decision to attend Dominguez Hills or just attending a university and pursuing your degree, the reality is you're making an investment in yourself, and then you're going to be functioning as a role model for your family, right? And potentially inspire a sibling or a cousin or maybe even friends, and saying, well, if they're able to do it, then why can't I should try as well. So it's not just getting an education, you're placing yourself in a position of influence with people who are around you. right? So you should take your education seriously. Okay. But anyway, so I'll get off my little my soapbox for a moment because I don't like to fail students, right? But I will fail students if a student gives me an argument to fail them at the end of the semester. First argument of failing a course with me is don't consistently sign onto Canvas. Don't consistently do the modules. And if when I send out reminders and you don't do the modules, well, that is literally telling me is like you don't care about your grade, you don't care about the class. Then if you're demonstrating your lack of interest in the class, then I'm not going to pursue it any further. Right. And then at the end of the semester, I'll just fail that student, give him an F. And I know this is going to sound terrible, make me a terrible human being. I will not lose any sleep over it because I will write is like you need to drop the class before the end of the semester because I will fail you. You will get a fail in this course. And if I don't get a response, then I'm going to give them a fail. And I've done that in the past. Okay. So I'm just trying to be clear and honest with you. Now, if you're struggling because of whatever circumstances that you might find yourself in terms of your individual life, communicate with me and let me know what's happening so we could develop some type of plan and strategy to help you get the assignments done and get you through this course, and then you could move on with your program. And then at some point in the future, of course, apply for a graduate program because, as I mentioned earlier in the prior video, I do expect every student who takes my course with or takes courses with me will eventually apply to a graduate program because you're going to realize that your bachelor's degree it is not going to give you the type of opportunities for the type of lifestyle that you may want. You may, it's possible. It's not impossible or improbable. It's just more challenging. But if you acquire a master's, a law degree, an MBA, or a PhD, or an EDD, which is a PhD in education and leadership, will offer so many more opportunities. All right. So it's something to consider about grad school. All right. And if you ever want to talk about it, we could definitely talk about grad school, about my personal experience and what I think about it and whatnot. Okay. But anyway, that's pretty much like the course breakdown in terms of grading. And then again, I have here attendance and participation that I mentioned earlier. And then here's writing emails. Okay. When you're writing emails, you need to write it in a much more formal way because do not write to me or any of your professors and say, "What's up, prof?" That is disrespectful, right? Because we're trying to cultivate intellectuals and professionals, right? You do not treat your professors as your personal friends. But then you also, right, and this is sort of more my personal view, you should also see your professors as a resource and not necessarily an enemy. And this is what I mean because if you really critically think about it, when you were going through school and more specifically in junior high and high school, did you see your teachers in middle school and high school as resources and people that could potentially help you, or did you see them more as adults just telling you what to do and giving you busy work and so on and so forth? Right. Or if a shorthand way of saying this is that you see your teacher as your enemy, right? You shouldn't see that. And like I mentioned, you need to be honest with yourself, right? Because at the university, that perspective is only going to lead you to frustration. So if you look at your professors as a resource, in terms of how to get you from point A to point B and then point B to C and so on and so forth, then you need to be able to have open communication with your professor. Because again, if you're going to apply for grad school, you need to have those interpersonal connections with those professors to be able to write you a letter that strongly represents the type of not only person but potential intellectual and or professional in the future. All right. So then you want to be formal. So then the way that I ask students to write emails is that you're going to write an email in the subject matter, write the course number, right? Because I set up my emails to help organize my emails so I'm able to keep track and make sure that I do respond to my emails within 24 to 48 hours, and then provide the section number and then write what the issue is right after that, and then go to the text body of the email, and then write what concerns or issues that you want me to pay attention to and direct you to, or answer. Okay. All right. Okay, and then of course the written assignments. So written assignments will consist of assisting you in organizing your research project for the course. The instructor a record will upload it onto Canvas and so on and so forth. But then you're gonna be using specific formatting, right? Because I'm in a week or in 2 weeks, I think. Gonna go over the necessary components of formatting, because if papers are not organized and formatted properly, I'm gonna let you know now, I will not read them. I'm just gonna tell you to reformat it in the proper structure. And proper what is proper structure? 1 inch margins, 12-point font, double spaced, right? And and you could include page numbers if you want. Right, that's up to you. Okay, but they have to be structured properly, because think of me sort of as an editor for a journal, and I've heard stories, and this happened to me once, where I submitted a paper and I forgot to format a section of the paper, and it was rejected because my formatting was slightly off. All right. I know that might seem again seem anal retentive, right, or over the top, but it's this idea of professionalism, right? So like if you don't take the time to properly format a paper, your reader will look at it is that if you don't care about the appearance of your work, so then why should I care enough to take your work seriously? Right? Again, I'm just trying to be honest and forthright. And this is what certain professors will think, but they will never necessarily directly tell you. They might tell you in other ways, but that's also the importance of developing critical listening skills and to understand what your professor is trying to convey to you. Right. Okay. So then but then what I'm also going to encourage you to do in terms of writing is, and I will provide the email this weekend or next weekend, for a link to, or sorry, URL to Purdue OWL, which is an online writing lab that is sponsored and maintained by Purdue University, which I don't remember what state it's located in. But it's a good tool to have. So, like as you're writing, you could use that website as your writing your site for your writing manual, or have an actual physical copy of a writing manual next to you. So I'll try to leave a note for myself to and make a concerted effort to provide you an image of a really good writing manual that you could use. Some of you might have it, because when you take in a written or writing class, it's usually that book is usually assigned, right? But at the moment, I can't remember the author's name, right? But I could see it, the cover and whatnot. But I'll provide like I mentioned, write a note and try to provide you with that image. Okay, so let me sort of go continue. So then, of course, the weekly modules. Then you're going to have the editing a peer's essay, as I mentioned earlier. You're going to submit it to me like 2 weeks before the assignment starts, and then I'm going to conceal any identifying information, and then provide a number to maintain some type of anonymity, and then pass it out. Then you're going to have about 2 weeks or so to write it. Now, just to sort of let you know, when I give you the editing paper and the reflection paper, I'm still going to post modules, but I'm going to make the assignments much smaller to give you to allow you enough time to be able to do those two extensive written essays. All right. And that week or those like 2 3 weeks, it's going to be intense just in terms of like writing and submitting the work. Okay. So I'm just trying to prepare you now. All right. For this particular essay. But once we get through these two assignments, then we're just going to go back to our normal modality until the end of the semester. Okay. Then the research proposal, as I mentioned, that it's going to be based on some type of interest that you may have. And I will have like a module helping you figure out how to be able to identify a potential research project, either in terms of your interests or from your own personal life. All right. So, like for example, when I was an undergrad at UC Santa Barbara, I was a Chicano studies major, and I wrote a lot of essays in Chicano studies department about Chicano identity, but then I use my own personal experience as a source and make those connections. All right, and that's why I've um, see myself as a working class Chicano scholar or academic or intellectual, whatever word that you want, or professor. Right. So then you could find inspiration for research almost in anything. Right, but there are very specific steps about how you go about doing it, and not necessarily setting yourself as the main character, but more of, well, how do these experiences shape your understanding of certain things, right? Which is different. Okay, but again, I'm gonna go through all that when we go through the modules and provide you a written example. Okay. Readings, you definitely need to be able to you need to be do the readings in order to do the modules. Um and and you're going to be using the text. All right. So no outside text unless I specifically specify in the instructions, but everything is just going to come from the Booth and the Elder and Richard texts. Right. And then also the other subsequent readings from that I'm going to post on Canvas. Right. Okay. So actually, let me get further down. So this is just about plagiarizing. Yeah, if I catch you plagiarizing, I will turn that person into the dean and the chair, and but I'm of course going to let that student know in a heartbeat. The way to avoid plagiarism is making sure that you always cite who you are using and even if you accidentally don't cite, that is considered plagiarism. Right. So you need to make sure that you are very methodological as well as detailed oriented when you do your citations, and at the same time making sure you use recognizable citation styles. Okay. And recognizable citation styles is ASA, which is the American Sociological Formatting Style. There's APA, which is the American Psychological Association Citation Style, and of course, formatting. And then there's MLA. MLA is the Modern Language Association, but that deals more with like poetry and creative writing. For the social behavioral sciences, you could either use ASA or APA, but APA appears to be more widely used compared to ASA. And this is what I tell all students. Once you think about applying to graduate school, is you need to learn by memory ASA as well as APA. All right, because that's one of the you're going to be continuously using either one. All right, but again, if you think if you have questions about is something maybe considered or yeah considered plagiarism, let me know and I can look it over and then I'll give you my assessment to make sure that you protect yourself. All right, because I have turned students in for plagiarizing. And I did it like when I was a graduate student at UC Santa Barbara. I turned in two graduating seniors because my TA at the time caught them plagiarized or plagiarized, then gave me their materials. That I verified it, and then I and the plagiarism was confirmed, and I submitted it to the chair and the dean, and they didn't graduate. Right. So again, make sure that you cite properly and use Purdue OWL, because they do have a section in Purdue OWL on the different citation formats for APA, MLA, as well as ASA. The only issue is with Purdue OWL, they don't really highlight ASA, so you sort of have to do some looking around for ASA, and I'll show you how to find that later on. Okay. All right. And these are like my responsibilities and your responsibilities, but let me just go down here. All right. So then this is what I've been doing for the last 8 years or so. Because of the type of society we live in today, a lot of students over the years have told me they're in some type of crisis. Crisis could be in terms of being in a toxic relationship with an abusive partner or ex abusive partner, or that they're homeless or couch surfing or hungry, because in the past I have bought students food when they told me, yeah, I haven't eaten for like a day, 2 days or so. So I'm like, if you feel comfortable, I'll take you to the food court, and I'll buy you something to eat. All right, because you cannot study and do well if you're hungry, tired, and stressed. So then what I've done started, as I mentioned earlier, provide information and resources. This is not an exhaustive list, but it's something just to get you started. So, like if you're dealing with issues of domestic violence or interpersonal violence or stalking or sexual misconduct, here are information about the campus police, campus escort, Title IX officer, Women's Resource Center, and psychological services. All right, so all that is confidential. This is on campus. And then I also included off campus, like the YWCA, the Crisis Intervention, Sukasa, which is, I believe, located in Long Beach. And then, of course, the National Domestic Violence Hotline 800 number. And then what I've also included as online is the Women's Law Org, information on restraining orders and other information, and also the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Information Resource. Right. Because toxic masculinity is a thing. Okay. Yeah, so I just provide that information there. And then what I've also done is I've also included the Rose Black Resource Center, and this is considered the Black Student Union for Black students. And then there's also one for Latinos, which is, I think, called La Casa, and I think I have it here. I don't. I thought I did. Sorry about that. I'll include that on here as well, like La Casa. And then, considering our current political reality since January 20th, and more specifically since January 21st, with immigration raids across the country and the potential challenge to DACA, I've included. Oh, here it is, the Toro Dreamers Resource Center. Um, uh, for DACA students or immigrants, because I'm not sure if you heard, like for example, when Trump was put into office the first time, he literally canceled flights from Muslim countries and other non-Western countries, right, in Latin America, Asia, and Africa. And one of the issues is that a lot of students from around the world couldn't enter the United States because of the flight ban that Trump did in his first term. And then you may have, if you're a foreign exchange student, or yeah, a foreign exchange student, and you visited back home, you may have received an email or some type of notification from Dominguez Hills to plan to arrive in the United States before January 20th, or definitely by at least, yeah, the 20th, before he got inaugurated, on arrive on the 19th, to make sure that you're in the country if he decided to close the airport to of flights from Asia, Africa, and Latin American countries. Fortunately, that is what has been voted for. So we have to sort of be able to adjust to these um, severe inconvenience. Right. So the immigration center, justice center, which is on campus as well. But then I also provided off campus source resources like the Loyola Immigrant Justice Clinic, and as well as the Coalition for Humane Immigration Rights, or CHIRLA. Okay. Because these next 4 years are definitely going to be very long in terms of immigration and status and whatnot. Okay. So we definitely should be much kinder to each other for the next 4 years and beyond. All right. Okay. And then the last thing I have here is the food bank. All right. Because I also volunteer at a local pantry in my community in the San Fernando Valley, where I help direct traffic and make sure that people enter the facility safely and get their food, and then take it home and be able to feed their families. Right. So on campus, we actually have Teddy's Pantry, which is located in the College of Education building 14H023, and it's called Teddy's Pantry. And you could click on this, and it'll take you to the webpage. Right. Here are the hours that they're open, right? Monday through Thursday, and then Friday, and then summer session. And here's the contact information and who is eligible, and more information on how this works for you as a student. Okay. And then next one is CalFresh, which is also here on campus, and you can click on that, and it'll take you to their webpage, and you can see what they offer and how you may be able to qualify, right? And all the information you can find here, right? And then the last one is the hot meal card. So then click on this, and then I'll take to their webpage and how you're able to apply for a hot meal card, where you're able to use the hot meal card to purchase, of course, hot meals at the food court on campus. All right. As I mentioned before or earlier, students have a hard time studying and focusing if your stomach is growling and telling you, "Feed me some more, see more." Okay, so definitely take advantage of these food programs here on campus. And then what I've also included here is the Los Angeles Regional Food Bank. So then what if once if sorry, I'm getting tongue tied. When you reach out the food bank, they're not going to tell you, come to the downtown food bank to get food. What they're going to tell you is, well, we donate service or food to these food pantries in your local community, and they'll more or less tell you where those are located, or they might direct you to their webpage where their information is located. All right. All right. So I try to provide as a broad breadth of information to try to meet whatever circumstances. Okay. All right. Because that's the type of society that we are currently living in. Fortunately or unfortunately. Okay. All right. Now, so let me go through some of this stuff. So then this is just instruction. So like I have until February 6th to drop students who don't consistently log on to Canvas. So if I see gaps, I will drop that student on the 6th, but I will write an email making sure that there's nothing happening with that particular student, that I just don't drop them just for whatever reason. I will reach out. Now, if I don't see a response before that date, then I will drop that student. All right. It's just again, just being honest and open. And what people are starting to learn after Trump's election, that he meant certain things,